the German language doesn't bring food to my table. If you feel the German language is not necessary for you, doesn't bring food to the table, then you don't even have to be in Germany. Honestly, I'm being brutal, but that's the truth, you know. First step to integration is communication. And how do you communicate? We're going to take Germany, of course, as an example. If you've migrated to Germany, if you've moved to Germany or any other country or society, the first thing you want to do to be able to get and find your footing into the society is through communication. And how do you do that? You have to learn the language. When you move to Germany, the first thing that you need for you to integrate, to be a part of the society, to be able to do that you desire to do, is definitely learning the German language. If you've had the opportunity, of course, doing some courses in your home country, that's even more amazing. But if you haven't, there's still opportunities and definitely possibilities of learning the language, of course, through a course and day-to-day life. So I'm going to be taking you through steps that you will need or things that you require for you to learn the language. We're talking course, we're talking schools, we're talking how long it's going to take, and why at all should you learn the language, right? So I'm going to start with schools. In Germany, we have like the general, what I would call general official government schools where you can learn the language. And one of them is called the Goethe Institute. Then we have the Kolpingschule, that means school. Then we have the Volkshochschule, and those are the cheap ones. Of course, we also have private schools that offer such courses, you know. But the main schools, especially if you're doing your language course as a form of the integration course, then you probably go to Goethe, you'll go to Kolping or to Volkshochschule, you know. And these courses are basically cost roughly between 400 and 600 euro. We're talking about you're going to require right from A1 to C2, depending on what kind of profession you're going to be having here or what your career is here in Germany. But I would say for starters, at least level A2 is enough for someone that is not going to be working like as a civil servant or a doctor, someone that's just going to be doing, let's say, casual jobs. You're going to be working in a supermarket, you're going to be working as a mechanic. A2 to B1 should be enough. But if you truly fully want to integrate and want to further your dreams and, you know, get immersed into your job or your career, then I would say take it as high as possible. The highest level is C2, which is like the highest. If you're good at languages and you can handle that financially, emotionally, and also time-wise, then you can do that. But I would say the threshold should be, if you can't anymore, should be a B2 or C1. We're talking about the cost, like I said. It costs roughly between 400 to 600 depending on the school. But then there are two options. If you're doing this as a part of the integration course, if you're part of the people that are being, how do you say, further. So basically, if you're part of an integrations course, let's say you're a refugee, you may be even a family that is jobless, you know, or you don't have a source of income, or you're a student. There's several reasons why and how you could be part of this integrations course. Then that means from the 400 to 600 euro, the Ministry of Immigration and Refugees gets to pay €4.58 per hour per lesson. Let's say per lesson, doesn't matter how long the lesson is, but per lesson. And then you as a person, you get to pay just €229. But if you're someone that has come to German, of course, on the visa of learning the language, you definitely have to foot the bill yourself. And that is roughly 400 to 600 euro. When we talk about cost, you'll be thinking, how long is it going to take me? How long does a course take? If you are someone that is not struggling with languages, you should be able to finish the A1 maximum in 4 weeks. So basically for all levels, let's say A1, A2, you should be able really to pass the exams after 4 weeks, maximum 4 weeks. And then for the B1, B2, C1, C2, you'll need 4 to 8 weeks roughly. But the cost is still the same if you finish in that time span, 400 to 600 euro. And like I said, if you're on social welfare, which I'll talk about, because we're going to be talking about everything that you need to know once you get into Germany. So at some point I'll be doing a video about social welfare. It means the cost gets completely taken for or taken care of by the social welfare, office that is responsible for that. I would also like to give you my tips on how to learn the language easily. The tips I use and what I believe that truly work is try as much as possible to practice. And how do you practice? You can practice by reading newspapers in German, reading books. If you love reading books, I'm someone who loves reading. I read quite a lot. So when I got here, even the normal novels, like my favorite writers, the John Grishams, I started ordering them in German, So I started to read directly like in the German language. It was tough, but it's the only way, like when you jump into the cold water, it's the only way you can get to learn. Another amazing tip is watching TV. Let me tell you, I even have a special bond to certain shows that I watched when I was new here that really helped me to like learn the German language. And one of them was called Berg Doctor. Berg Doctor is like a mountain doctor. It's like a love family series and all that. So I used to watch it, and I learned a lot. And watching films is very important, especially if you're going to be able to learn sentence construction. You're going to make your vocabulary better, because no matter which language it is, you really need to keep on building your vocabulary, So watching movies and films, now we have Netflix in the German language, can be very, very helpful. With time, for the first time, it seems weird, but once you start connecting, you learn very, very quickly. That's how I learned very quickly. And if you're a family and you have kids, then of course, taking the opportunity to learn with your kids can be very helpful, especially once they get into kindergarten or they get into school. Kids learn very, very quickly. So it would be an opportunity to make sure that even at home, you speak German most of the time. If you're like a couple, one of you can speak English and the other can speak German, you keep alternating. But if you make a mistake of speaking just, let's say your indigenous language at home and you don't speak the German language, it will be very, very difficult to learn. Secondly, you must have the self-confidence not to share one, be like, oh my God, people think I'm speaking broken German. Most of the people I meet actually held back by this fear, by the shyness of embarrassment. But people actually are very impressed if you're doing your best, like to learn the language. Even when you're making mistakes, they'll be very helpful. So you should never feel shy about it. Because anyway, anyone who has logic knows we all start from zero before we get there. So it's very normal that you're going to make some mistakes. Of course, I wouldn't say friends, because I feel learning a language shouldn't be a reason that someone becomes your friends, but network, make acquaintances, mingle and mix with the local people, because from which person can you learn better than the local people? So mix with the local people, make a few acquaintances, and those can be useful in other situations, which I'll of course be talking about as we go on with our series of integration. And one would I have to tell you this. So recently, as I was doing a TikTok live and I was talking about integration and language, and there was someone of African descent who told me the German language doesn't bring food to my table. I was very disappointed, so I tried to engage him, and he just ended up being defensive and even abusive, so I blocked him. But again, that is the sad bit, and it shows me those are the people that project their failures, I would say their laziness, honestly, to integrate onto other people. Because if you have such a mentality of, I don't give an F, what are you doing here? If you feel the German language is not necessary for you, doesn't bring food to the table, then you don't even have to be in Germany. Honestly, I'm being brutal, but that's the truth, because I can assure you 100% you're never going to have a life here. You're never going to make anything out of your life if you do not integrate. And I'm not saying lose yourself, lose your culture, lose your language. I speak more than 8 languages. I still speak all my local languages, despite being fluent in the German language. But if someone comes and says, oh, the German language doesn't bring food to my table, I lose respect for such a person completely. And I would advise you not to be that kind of person, because definitely you'll be one of those people that are frustrated, that are causing problems because they are too lazy to do something out of their life. I'm sorry. So we really have to go into details. Why do you need to learn the language? definitely, like I said, there's no way whatsoever you'll ever be able to integrate if you don't learn the language. Language is a form of communication. If you don't communicate, you can't network. If you don't communicate, you're basically like tied into, locked up into a small box. We're talking about making GP appointments. If you want to see your doctor, you want to see your gynae, you have kids, your children have to go to the medical appointments, you have to go to civil offices, maybe you need something. How in the world are you going to communicate if you don't learn the language? So you're always going to be limited. You cannot excel, you cannot prosper. And we're talking about social empowerment here, something that I'm really, really passionate about, So if you're going to prosper, if you're going to get a job, if you're going to work on your career, you definitely need to learn the language, unless you just want to stay 20 years in Germany and all you can do is the worst paid jobs, which is, I don't believe, something that any one of us wishes for themselves unless you don't have any other choice, Definitely, and like I said, about jobs and hospitals, I mean, if you're going to get a job here, you have to do the interview in the German language. You have to deal with clients in the German language, or patients, depending on your profession. We're talking about making medical appointments. Imagine going to the doctor and you can't even explain what you have, what your problem is. Or just imagine if you had an emergency and you couldn't even call the police. Or we're talking about people that relocate for love. I have plenty of those in my client catalog. The marriage, the relationship gets toxic and you can't even call for help. You can't even call 110, that is our police hotline. You can't call 112, that is, the emergency services, fire brigade, medical emergencies. What kind of life is that? You're even putting yourself in danger. You're putting your family and children in danger if you're relocated with a family. So I know it's tough. We're not also good with languages, but I believe it is possible. It might take you longer than other people would, but you would still be able at least to get the basics, and that is something you should strive for. So definitely, you want to integrate, you learn the language. They go hand in hand. You don't learn the language, you can never integrate. And we're not talking about just German. I'm saying wherever you move to, if you move to America, we have Germans moving to Africa. You really have to learn the language. Again, referring to the gentleman who told me the German language doesn't put food to the table. We're talking about your self-confidence, your respect, and that's where I lose it. I'm like, how can you be so disrespectful to yourself that you want to be dependent your entire life? Because we're talking about, like in my job, we have cases where we have to get them translators. Wasting of taxpayers' money. I'm a taxpayer and I have every right to say that, Why do you want someone else to speak for you? Because if you could speak for yourself, maybe you'll communicate better. We're talking about asylum seekers who are here and have to go to court hearings, and then they need someone to translate for them. Maybe it would be better and easier and offer you better chances if you could communicate for yourself. And I feel doing something that uplifts you, doing something that empowers you, is a form of self-respect and self-love. But if you're the kind of person who says, I'm going to immigrate from wherever I immigrate from, Africa, Mexico, Thailand, wherever, come to Germany, stay here the next 20 years and not be able to interact, communicate, integrate just because I'm lazy, I'm scared, I'm ignorant, is a form of self-disrespect. And not being able to communicate and truly integrate in society affects your self-confidence, which again affects the society you're living in. Because one of the benefits of integration is that you get to find your footing, you get to make something out of your life. And the people who don't truly integrate are the people that end up, becoming criminals, that end up being hooligans, that end up feeling like the world owes them, We have such situations, people who think like, oh my God, everybody is having a good life and I'm not. And I'm an immigrant myself, and I'm not invalidating your experiences. I know some people have had it tough, integrating, which I'll be talking about, and why I do this, because I know it's tough. It's not easy. It took me 2 years roughly to have my academics verified. So I know the hindrances, and that's why I'm doing this, to make sure that create more conducive atmosphere, policies and laws that can assist immigrants fully integrated in our society. But you also have to be willing, I don't want anyone with a migrant background to be stuck in Germany for the next 20 years, not having to do anything out of their life, depending on social welfare. And that is it's not nice, it's not fun. You're accountable to someone for the rest of your life. You're getting little money. You really can't live out of a box, So I'm doing this because I want something better for you, and also for you to be of use to your society, not to be a burden. We don't want you becoming a criminal. We don't want you striking all the time because your life is terrible and you think the world owes you. So really, if you decide to migrate from one community to another, you must put the effort to integrate. And again, my lovelies, that's why I started this journey in 2021, exactly in July, because I'm very passionate about this. I know that the laws are sometimes not so conducive. As I announced, thank God they've loosened up the law of academics verification. That was a very, very big hindrance. And my hope and intention is to make sure that it's through our contribution that laws and policies get better and conducive for people with migrant background, to benefit the people that have migrated, but more so to also benefit our society, our country, Germany. So my lovelies, if you're new here, thank you so much for joining our family. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. And of course, I would like you to not just comment, but get into conversation with me. I want to hear your story. I want to know your journey. If you're someone with a migrant background, feel free to DM me on all my socials, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, under the name Rushoff, and let's have a conversation. Let's have a sit down. Let's talk about your story. And through my journey here, I'm hoping to, start conversations, to open doors where we can also make sure that the policymakers get to look at the situations that affect people of migrant background and how we can ease the process of integration. Until next time, my lovelies, thank you so much.